Guess what this number is about? This number you are seeing right now. The hint is interactive design. This number has something to do with interactive design. The answer is 10 rules of thumb, user interface design guidelines. So this presentation is about 10 usability heuristics for user interface design. So who came up with this? The first person who came up with is Jacob Nielsen. The second person who came up with is Rolf Molik. So they together came up with these 10 heuristics of user interface. Please type their names on your internet search engine to look them up to know them more. So now I'm gonna go into each rules of thumb, each of 10 heuristics of user interface. So number one, is visibility of system status. What does it mean by visibility of system status? I'll show you what these are. Like this. And another example is that. What do you think the purpose of showing these graphics to users? When do you see these circle and the little animation? So these graphics are to show the computer is thinking and the computer is processing something. And when users see these graphics, they understand that they have to wait and they let the computer do their job without disturbing them. And these graphics are the example of visibility of system status, showing the status of the system you are using. Another example is this. This graphic shows the visibility of system status. And actually, this one shows the visibility of system status better than the previous ones. Why do you think this one is better? Because it helps users to estimate how long they need to wait more while the system is processing. Waiting is easier when you know how long it takes till the waiting is over. So the previous two graphics were showing that the system was processing something, so you have to wait. But it didn't show the progress bar, which indicates how long it will take more for you to wait for the system to process something. But this graphic of visibility of system status actually shows a number and the bar progressing 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, and so on. That gives you an idea how much longer you have to wait, which is kinder to users, which makes it user-friendly. This is another example of showing the visibility of system status. People love to see their choices that they made, as well as the choices they did not select, too. Some people review their choices again and again before pressing the submit button to finalize their choice. Seeing everything gives them peace and comfort before confirming their choices. So showing everything to users always promotes ease and peace to users' mind, which improves usability and makes it user-friendly. This is another example of the visibility of system status. Look at how much more you need to spend to get free shipping on your purchase. So on top, you will see on this orange bar, it says add $5.01 for free delivery, which makes calculation easier for users to get the free delivery, which is great for them. Don't you appreciate when a clerk in the store tells you special sales and deals when you are shopping? When they gave you coupons for stuff you are already purchasing to help you save money? What do you think visibility of system status do to users? What does visibility of system status accomplish? So visibility of system status is making things easier for users, like the clerk who knows the needs of the customers, providing coupons and discounts when they are shopping. So visibility of system status make users very welcomed, and they feel at ease. Visibility of system status accomplish these things. People don't have patience to wait, not knowing what's going on and how long it's going to take because they are busy. It's like being on the phone forever, trying to connect to a human operator. If you don't know how long you should wait and what's happening. Visibility of system status helps users to feel that they are in control. Also, visibility of system status helps users to do these things on the slide you are seeing. If people know something is wrong, they can take actions immediately on their own to fix it. Communication creates trust. In a real-life relationship with a person, if he or she withholds information from us or makes decisions unilaterally, we start losing trust and feel that the relationship is no longer on equal footing. The same thing happens when we interact with a system. When people trust a system or product, they use them more often. So don't blindfold your users.
The first of Jacob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics is visibility of system status. This heuristic refers to how well the state of a system is conveyed to its users. Systems should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within a reasonable time. Imagine waiting for an elevator. You press the call button and expect it to light up to reflect that the system knows you're waiting and will send an elevator soon. You might even be able to see what floor that elevator is currently at, so you can gauge how long you'll need to wait. That knowledge is power. Open communication between the system and the user not only allows you to understand what is happening, but also empowers you to make decisions based on that information. Consider what information about a system the user needs to know and present that to them in a timely manner. This system status could be persistent or always visible, like a battery life or Wi-Fi connection indicator, or it can be feedback that is only shown after the user has done something. Just like when pressing that elevator button, feedback is critical to let people know their interactions with a system were acknowledged and successful. On a website or app, we expect visual feedback when we click an element, which can be as simple as changing the button color and, where appropriate, displaying a progress indicator. People should feel confident that their click was recognized and that the system is now working on the request. Understanding a system's current state is all about allowing users to feel in control. That said, providing visibility into the system does not mean you need to tell the user absolutely everything the system is doing. Don't provide system status updates if the user can't do anything with that feedback anyway. Too much information is distracting, so focus on only those key pieces of information that will truly be helpful or provide reassurance to the user. The visibility of system status heuristic highlights the importance of open and continuous communication, which is fundamental to all relationships, whether with people or with our devices. It's the key to making a system feel reliable and predictable, which in turn creates trust.
Number 2 of 10 heuristics of usability or user interface design. So the second one is match between the system and the real world. What does it mean by match between the system and the real world? It means saying, can you speak in English to people who use terminology and jargons to explain stuff to us? So these are the bad examples of not speaking users' language. These two. That one too. All of these are bad examples of not speaking users' language. When users don't understand the language your app is speaking, it confuses them. You have to speak your user's language when designing interface. If you have to explain what it is in words, you are not communicating in the language of your users. What does it mean to communicate in users' language in interactive design? This interface can be improved to be more clear and user-friendly. Like this, the previous interface that you saw in the previous slide can be improved like this. Notice the wording and simplify the instructions in more conversational English. Improves the usability. Visual hierarchy on the screen also clarifies the information. So interfaces that follow real-world conventions and make information appear in a natural and logical order demonstrate empathy and acknowledgement for users, which means if interface resembles the objects in the real world that users are familiar with, it will help users to feel comfortable using your app. For example, like this interface resembles the real compass. So the left, this interface with the black background is an app interface. And on the right, you see real object of compass. And the interface of the app on the left resembles the compass, the real compass on the right. And this similarity with the real life object enhances usability because users are already familiar with using the real life object. So in one of the reading materials assigned in this course, you should have learned mental models. So mental models, remember mental models. It means that people have mental models before using your product. For example, users might have mental models of reading a physical book before using Kindle. Users might have mental models of taking care of a pet before using Tamagotchi. If your interface resembles the real-world objects, your app matches your user's mental model better, which helps them not to be disoriented or lost in your app. Again, I want to emphasize this point. If your interface resembles the real-world objects, your app matches your user's mental model better, which helps them not to be disoriented or lost in your app. So by nature, human beings find comfort in familiarity. The reason why speaking in the user's language and following real-world conventions is important because it comes down to this main point, because we are all comfortable with the things we are familiar with. So speak in the user's language and follow real-world conventions in the interface you create in your app or in the software or website. And I want to bring up affordance. Affordance is another way of communicating in the language of users. Affordance is a visual communication. Affordance speaks users' language visually, not literally in words.
Jakob Nielsen's second usability heuristic says to match between the system and the real world. That means the system should speak the user's language with words, phrases, and concepts familiar to the user, rather than system-oriented terms. Additionally, the system should follow real-world conventions, making sure that information appears in a logical order. Let's discuss each of those components a bit more. The system should speak the user's language. Too often, I see the use of marketing jargon instead of direct, plain language to describe features or web components. So let's say we're redesigning an intranet and need to name a section that houses contact information for employees. Maybe we're looking at two proposed names, meet and greet or staff directory. Well, meet and greet might sound trendy, but it requires the user to make a lot of inferences. You might think, is that work events? Maybe calendar invites? Using the more direct label of staff directory results in a stronger information scent because many users will recognize the term directory as a place to find contact information.
In addition to speaking the user's language, we should also follow real-world conventions. Here, it's important to point out that people's mental models of technology are based on their previous digital experiences in addition to their prior experiences in the physical realm. Now, we can't talk about the second usability heuristic without mentioning skeuomorphic design. Skeuomorphic web design entails designing digital experiences to match a physical experience, both in visual and interaction. For example, books. In physical books, we can turn pages, highlight text, or use a bookmark. Looking at a digital book in the Kindle app, we can highlight text by pressing and holding a word, turn pages with a swipe gesture, or place a bookmark by tapping the page, clicking the bookmark icon in the top right. The digital experiences of reading a book is closely aligned to the physical experience. Effectively following the second usability heuristic means speaking the user's language and following real-world conventions. If you're not doing both, users might portray your interface in a negative light, as if you don't really know them or you just don't care. At the end of the day, get out and observe real users, test your prototypes, and remember to design for them and not for you.
Number 3. User control and freedom.
Have you ever said a friendly hello to someone and then got caught in a long, drawn-out conversation? You might have wanted out of it, but couldn't think of a polite exit. Because there's no way to undo that hello, you might begin to avoid such niceties in the future. User control and freedom is one of Jakob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics. It states that users often choose system functions by mistake and need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave that unwanted state. Basically, support undo and redo. A common example would be the back and forward buttons on every web browser. Imagine if that didn't exist. You'd have to be really confident in every single click as you navigate around the web because there'd be no easy way to get back to where you were if you clicked to visit a page and realized it wasn't what you needed. Similarly, any processor mode in any digital system should include a way for users to back out when needed. And websites can't only rely on those browser buttons, but should provide users a clear way to leave a stepped process or cancel whatever it was they started on that web page itself. Undo or cancel is particularly important for mobile devices and other touchscreens, where accidental taps are common. And again, these emergency exits should be clearly marked. For instance, many people have no clue that some mobile apps allow undo by shaking the device, just like you could shake to erase the classic Etch-a-Sketch toy. If users never discover a feature, does it even exist? When it's easy for people to back out of an unwanted process or undo an action, it fosters a sense of freedom because they realize they don't need to be afraid to click on that link or test out that photo filter. They know that if it turns out to not be what they wanted, they can easily undo that action. They're always in control of the system and aren't going to get stuck somewhere they didn't intend.
Having the option of cancel button lets users change their mind anytime. Web browsers go back and go forward button gives users control on navigating their internet surfing. We all have gotten email newsletters. Having the option to unsubscribe lets users maintain their sanity. This Do Not Show Again option gives users to skip this window if they choose to. It helps them to express their preferences. Like this one too. Don't show this message again. These skip ad buttons let users to control what they want to watch and what they don't. This kind of button, like Not Now button, help users to control their workflow, schedule, and priorities at the moment. These X on the pop-up windows let users to exit anytime. And these options always help users to control their own schedule, which gives them the sense of being in control. And that's really good in terms of usability. Yes. Number 4. Consistency and standards. What does this mean? It means you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Follow the standard and UI conventions. There are so many existent icons that are universal and most people are already familiar with. Use these existent icons so your users do not need to relearn new icons you invented. If there is already an icon for a particular task, use the existent icon. Remember conceptual models that your reading material covered. Interactive design is not about making something look unique, brand new, and original. It's about using the existent and familiar concepts for users so they can intuitively use your product. Present what they already know if those are available. So again, make sure you are providing something your users are already familiar with, so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. In addition to using existing icons, use a template to keep the look of your app consistent. Every time you introduce a new color scheme, new look on the screen, your users will feel disoriented. It's like teleporting users to different rooms of a house instantly. Instead, let users to stay in one room. Your job is to show the same one room from different angles and different parts. For example, like this, every screen should have continuous look. To keep consistency, you must position the navigation bar in the same place in every and any screen. Navigation bar should maintain the same look to show the users where they are on the navigation menu. Gray out the icon of what screen they are on the navigation menu. Changing the position and look of the navigation bar is like switching north, south, west, and east on the compass to a traveler. It will disorient them and force them to abandon their journey.
One of Jacob's 10 heuristics for UI design is to maintain consistency and adhere to standards. This heuristic is crucial for ensuring that your UI is predictable and learnable. People shouldn't have to wonder whether different words, symbols, situations, or actions mean the same thing. We can think about two types of consistency as it applies to UX design: internal consistency and external consistency. Internal consistency refers to maintaining consistency within a product or a family of products. For example, maybe your visual designers decide to use a specific shade of orange to highlight actionable elements, things like call to action buttons. If you decided to then use that orange to highlight a static heading, you'd be breaking internal consistency. That might be a problem because it violates the established meaning of that visual treatment. Users may no longer be able to rely on it to help them determine which elements in your UI are actionable. External consistency refers to maintaining consistency outside of products. You might have established conventions for UIs in your industry or even established conventions for UIs in general. For example, most e-commerce sites have a shopping cart feature. People are familiar with this feature because they see it anytime they use an e-commerce site. They have existing expectations for how that feature should work and where it should be placed. In the upper right corner of the screen, usually. Jacob's Law can help us to understand why external standards are so important. Jacob's Law states that people spend most of their time on sites other than yours. If all of those other sites follow a consistent convention, but your site breaks that convention, you're forcing people to learn something new. There are times when breaking conventions can be worthwhile. Maybe you just figured out a new and better pattern. Just remember, you're adding to your users' cognitive load every time you make them learn something new, so you should only do it when it's absolutely necessary. In most cases, it's best to maintain consistency, both internal and external, to improve your product's learnability.
Number 5. Error prevention. There are 2 types of user errors. Both are discussed in much greater detail in Don Norman's book, The Design of Everyday Things. First kind of user error is called slips. Slips are like a typo when you are typing because you have fat fingers and type in the 2 keys at the same time and so on. Or in everyday life, using conditioner when you try to use shampoo to your scalp when you are taking shower because they look very similar. Here are some tips to prevent slips. Set constraints for users. Like you cannot set the return date before the departure date. You can also use these same constraints when users are booking their hotels for their vacation. You cannot set the last day of stay before the first day of stay. Also, offer suggestions. This prevents users' spell errors. It helps users do research and find the results they want more quickly. On the search engine like Bing and Google, when you misspell a word, they ask, "Did you mean ... question mark?" That's this, offering suggestion to users to prevent or recover from their slips. Choose good defaults. For example, in a reminder app, a few typical preset options such as tomorrow, next week, in 1 hour can prevent typos in dates or times. A reminder to take dinner out of the oven that comes a day late is definitely not helpful. Tomorrow is easier for users to pick than tomorrow's date like September 25th, unless they know today's date by heart. Next week is easier for users to select than the week of October 1st to October 8th. Use forgiving format. What does this mean? Once you begin typing, the form adds the spaces, parentheses, and hyphens where they normally go, and also ignores additional non-numeric characters. This helps the user understand what characters they should type and does the work of reformatting, making it much easier for users to read and double-check their own work. For example, type in your phone number without dash, but the form automatically inputs dash between your numbers to divide the area code from the rest and stuff. The second type of user error is mistakes. Mistakes are rooted in misunderstanding. Like in this example, putting air into your tires when your car needs new oil, which does not fix anything with the car.
It's happened to all of us. You go to your inbox, you open an email, and you see it. It's something that has been sent, not just to the recipient, but reply all, to everyone, including lots of people it wasn't supposed to go to. Sometimes we've been on the receiving end and it's cringeworthy, but of course it's even more mortifying if you are actually the sender and you've sent something now to your entire workplace of 200,000 people or your campus or your community. That is not user error. In fact, it's the design error. The design failed to prevent the user from accidentally clicking that reply all button. Now, this concept of error prevention is one of Jakob Nielsen's heuristics. It's one of the most important concepts to have good usability in a design. Let me show you something I found the other day that was actually wonderful. This is my electric toothbrush, which does a great job cleaning my teeth, but it also has a nice feature designed to prevent me from forgetting to charge it. When I finish brushing my teeth and its battery's running low, it vibrates 3 times. It makes a little sound. It goes burp, 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 something like that. And that tells me that I need to plug it in. Now, what's the worst that can happen if I forget to charge this toothbrush? I can still brush my teeth just fine. But there are plenty of designs where the stakes are actually really high. Those of you who might be designing things for use in medical scenarios, in transportation, in security or finance, where if someone accidentally starts to reach for the wrong button, it could have really serious and damaging consequences. So error prevention is critical. So if you're looking at your designs, I want you to start with the issues that might cause severe damage. Then go down and look at things that you can do to prevent simple annoyances and frustrations and prevent people from having to redo their work. Sometimes these are simple fixes like changing size, the color or placement, location of a button. Sometimes changing the texture of a button if you're in the physical world. Other times it's offering a confirmation dialogue that says, are you sure you want to transfer all of your money to this other account? It's worth the interruption because you want to prevent an accidental transfer. And last, having an undo button is a great way to at least prevent errors from becoming permanent. So if someone goes down that path of making a mistake, they can still catch it and hopefully undo. So when you're looking through your designs, take the time to find out ways that you can stop errors before they happen. And in the meantime, stay clear of that reply all button.
As a UI and UX designer, your job is to design your interface that is hard to make mistakes. Again, your job as a UI and UX designer, it's your job to design your interface that is difficult to make mistakes for users. Everything needs to be crystal clear. Everything needs to be dummy-proof. It also requires a system for users to double-check their decision before they finalize their choice. Make sure to offer users the choice to undo their actions. History panel let users to go back or restore the file to its previous state. File backup system let users to undo unwanted deletion of files. It also helps users to restore files to what they used to be. Notify users clearly if what they are doing is not undoable. So make sure that your message communicates clearly that what they are doing is permanent, if it is permanent. And again, make sure they will know what they are doing is permanent. They cannot change it. January 13 in 2018 at 8:09 a.m. in Hawaii time, this text message was sent to everyone in the state of Hawaii. And if you wanna know more about this incident, Wikipedia has it and listed as 2018 Hawaii false missile alert. And this message was sent in error due to the bad interface design. So this is the interface that let users make a mistake to send the false missile alert. So you see the wording and the position of the buttons were not designed well. So this like drill state only should have been selected, but because the interface is so confusing and so bad, the user selected this one, PACOM CDW state only, which wasn't for drill. So you can see how important the user interface is. If you juxtapose save and delete buttons, users might accidentally click delete when they actually wanted to save the file because of their poor control of the mouse. Number 6, recognition against recall in user interface. As an UI and UX designer, creating visual cues in the design that let users recognize what they are using is super important. Here, I want to show the difference between recognition and recalling. So in everyday life, you have had moments when you met someone and you think, oh, I know you, but I can't remember your name. This is because you recognize the face of the person, but you cannot recall their name. Sometimes you cannot recall when and where you met them, but you recognize their face. You recognize, but you cannot recall. So that's the example of recognition. In everyday life, while listening to music, you have had these moments. I've heard of this melody and tune, but I can't remember the title of this song. Or maybe you might recognize the song, but you cannot recall the band's name. This is because you recognize the song from the melody and tune, but you cannot recall the information that belong to the song. Same goes for our memories for actors. Don't we recognize them from their roles in movies but cannot recall their name? We often say, that actor from such and such movie is in the new TV show I'm watching. ... Oh, the guy who plays the role of detective is now in this horror movie. ... And so on. This is because we recognize the actors, but we don't recall their first and last name unless we are a fan of them. So this recognition system we have instilled in us should be applied to interfaces of interactive design. This is a toolbar in Photoshop. Can you name all the tools on this Photoshop toolbar? Like each of these. Do you know the name of each button? Even if we do not know all the names of each tool on the toolbar, we know what each of them do. We know the functions and we can use them without problems. That's because we recognize them to use them for its purpose. Many search engines have visual cues that show users' browsing history and recently viewed websites. This helps users to resume tasks that they left incomplete, or this can help users resume what they cannot recall doing it before. This function improves their productivity and efficiency of their workflow. Many online stores promote recognition. Users don't need to remember information that they may have seen in the past or recall what the product might have been called. When a user goes back to Amazon.com, the personalized homepage includes a list of recently viewed items, favorites, wish lists, shopping lists, and so on. All of these help with making content easily accessible via recognition.
One of the top 10 usability heuristics advises to promote recognition over recall in user interfaces. So what are recognition and recall? And why is recognition easier than recall? Let's take an example. If I ask you a question such as, is Lisbon the capital of Portugal? Answering it involves recognition. You simply have to recognize whether the information provided is correct. If instead I asked you, what is the capital of Portugal? You would use a process of recall to retrieve the right answer from your memory. Memory retrieval is made easier by the cues that we receive from the context. All those cues send signals to related information that is stored in our memory. The more cues we have, the easier it is to retrieve the right concept from memory. The big difference between recognition and recall is the number of cues provided by the context that can help the memory retrieval. Recall involves fewer cues than recognition. A menu system is the most classic example of a recognition-based user interface. Computer shows you the available commands and you recognize the one you want. Say, for example, that you're working with a word processor and you want to cross a sentence out to indicate it's no longer valid. Before the graphical user interfaces, if you used a command line editor, you would have to recall the name of this rarely used formatting feature. The recall is difficult and error-prone. With a graphical user interface, however, you look at the menu of formatting options and easily recognize the term strike through or an icon for that function. Interfaces that promote recognition give users extra help in remembering information. Minimizing user work is essential for a good user experience. So that's why we recommend that you strive to promote recognition over recall in your UIs.
Number 7. Flexibility and efficiency of use.
Imagine that you're writing an email to a large group of people. You need to send roughly the same email with a few small changes. You could write a brand new message for each person, or you could reuse most of the same message. To do that, you could highlight the similar text, click Edit in the top menu, and then Copy. Maybe you could highlight the passage, right-click, and choose Copy. Or, for maximum quickness, just select and Command-C. That simple copy action can be successfully carried out in a number of different ways. It's a flexible and efficient process. Heuristic number 7 of the 10 usability heuristics deals with this idea. Flexible processes can be carried out in different ways so that people can pick whichever method fits them. That flexibility helps people be more efficient. If a system lets me choose my method of interaction, I can get things done in a way that's quick and comfortable for me. That keyboard shortcut, the handy Command-C, is an accelerator. An accelerator is any option or action that speeds up an interaction. Accelerators are there for more experienced users who know a system well and want to make routine tasks go by more quickly. Highly usable systems are flexible enough to be efficient for experts and friendly to newbies. It's important not to overwhelm first-time users with too much information. Don't try to teach them every action on the system in the very first session of use. That's too much to learn all at once. Accelerators are often seen in the wild in work and productivity-related applications. If you work in design, you're likely familiar with the many keyboard shortcuts that help you work in your interface design program of choice more quickly. If you work extensively with data analysis, you're likely very familiar with macros in Excel or Google Sheets. But accelerators can show up just about anywhere. For most of us, Instagram isn't a work-related product, but there's still a hidden accelerator there. If you're a frequent user of the social media app, you may know that you can quickly like a photo by tapping twice on a photo. That's quicker and slightly more efficient than finding and tapping the heart icon. When the 7th heuristic is done well, expert users won't be slowed down by a system that's only built with basic use in mind. New users won't be overwhelmed by an information overload of actions to learn.
Provide shortcut key combinations as well as a drop-down menu to select the function. For example, if users want to use brush tool in Photoshop, they can hit the letter B on your keyboard. That's a shortcut, but they should also be able to access to the brush tool from toolbar too. By providing shortcuts as well as visual cues and menus typed out in words, you can accomplish these 2 points that you see on this slide. Number 8, aesthetic and minimalist design. Do you remember KISS principle of design? What is it? It's keep it simple, stupid. Why do you think minimalist design is best suited for interactive design? The mobile device screen is small. Majority of people use apps and internet browsers with mobile device. When screen is small, every visual elements and letters get small because there are not a lot of space to do a complicated layout. intricate decorative patterns become indistinguishable and get lost in the small scale. A lot of text on the screen will have to have a very small font size, which challenges the legibility. That's why you need to go with the minimalist design, which is KISS. Keep it simple and stupid. Number 9, help users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. So how can you say this error message in the language users can understand easily? Do you think this is the best way to communicate with users what went wrong and how to fix it? Bad error messages treat people in a demeaning way. These are some examples of do's and don'ts of error messages. Why do you think they are do and don't? So this is don't do this. This is how you should do it. And this is do not do it. This is do. I want you to think about why the example of don't is not to do it, and the example of do is why it's a good example of doing. I'll give you a hint. So don't example, the error message says sign in unsuccessful. I'm sorry. Sign in unsuccessful. Please try again. But this doesn't explain whether your username was wrong or password was wrong. You don't know which one was wrong. It just says your sign in failed and you gotta try again. And the other one says do example says, it says specifically that your account doesn't exist. So now you know what to do. Specifically, you need to use a different account or you have to get a whole new one. So you have to, create a new account, and the link is right here. So let's go back to the first example. On the left is the don't do example, and on the right, this is like do example. And the reason why on the left, this purple one, it's like don't do is that it doesn't offer a solution right here, right then. What if you didn't actually have account with them, and then you get an error message, you forgot to enter your email address? You will think that, like, if you enter your email address, you might be able to log in. But the system might not have recognized your account at all. That might mean you might not have an account at all. It's not clear. And also it doesn't offer a solution on the left. On the other hand, on the right, on this example, the error message says, we didn't recognize this IBM ID or email, clearly saying that we don't have your account information on file. you probably have to make a brand new account. And also offering a solution right here, right then. There's a link posted so that users can click this link to solve their problem right there, right then. And again, why do you think these are like don't do and do? So on the left, the error message is incorrect format. And you are like, okay, incorrect format, what did I do? And it makes you think. Do not ever make users think. You have to communicate clearly in users' language. So on the right, this example, the error message says, sorry, the password isn't right. We can help you recover your password, and offering the solution right here. If you click this link, recover your password, you can solve the problem you are encountering right now. And also on here, there's another error message. It says, enter a valid email address to use as your Apple ID. So instead of saying incorrect format, this error message speaks English and speaks in the language of users. And this is another don't do, and this is do this. Why do you think these are don't and do? So on the left, the error message is please enter your email address. And also password error message says at least 6 characters, a number or symbol. And these error message can be more in detail. And on the right, this is a same form. As you type, the message that gets displayed changes. So when it's blank, it says please enter a value. And when you start typing something, it will say an email address must contain a single @ mark. Then when you type @ mark, the domain, it says the domain portion of the email address is invalid, the portion after the @ mark. So like these error message is pointing specifically what to do and offering the solution depending on the input you make. So on the left, the error message is a little bit too vague, but here it is more in detail, helping users step by step, taking baby steps, which is good. We all do not want to be corrected harshly. We do not like to be humiliated or put to shame. Error messages are essentially correcting users what they are doing wrong. We have to keep in mind how people want to be communicated when they are making mistakes. Let's be considerate of their feelings. Here are the guidelines to create effective error messages. Please take your time to read everything here. Number 10, help and documentation. Because we all make mistakes and nobody is almighty and all-knowing, we have to have help very accessible to users. Help used to be very difficult for users to get. The form of help, software and apps provide changed over the time. Decades ago, help was often provided in the form called user guides, like this you see on the screen. User guides looked like a dictionary, but who likes reading a dictionary when they are having trouble? User guides can be too overwhelming and not user-friendly. To solve the problem, some software came up with a character that acts like an assistant to users. They were called wizards. So I hope your generation grew up with Mr. Clippy in Microsoft Word. And if you know Mr. Clippy, this is a wizard. And it's a form of help to users. So nowadays, online help is a common form to provide help to users. There are all kinds of support forums and communities on the internet. Another common way of providing help to users nowadays is guided tours and overlays. What are they? This kind of screen is called guided tours and overlays. You see what's new, tutorials for this and that project, and so on. Usually, guided tours and overlays pop up when you open an app or doing something new. Guided tours will start guiding you around the software you are using. And it goes like, look at this, did you know? It's like attending an orientation meeting with a tour guide. Overlays appear on top of the interface you are using. It's translucent. Overlays show how to use the software like you are shadowing someone who knows what they are doing. Guided tours and overlays have become popular on mobile platforms because they are more approachable and immersive to beginners. It's an onboarding experience that promotes users' initial software learnability. For experienced users, these guided tours and overlays can be disruptive and annoying because it takes up all the screen and they pop up unexpectedly. So guided tours and overlays are for beginners, mainly. Everyone has a different way of being helped. For some, chatting online about their problems might help them feel better. Some feel better when they talk about their problems with others in person. Others feel better for not even thinking about their problems and doing activities that are not related to their problems at all. Some might want to get help via phone, while others want to get customer support through emails. People also want to get support on the forums and community on the internet. Make sure you have every kind of help available for your users. Now you know these 10 usability heuristics for UI design, user interface design. So these are 10 usability heuristics. Please review and remember these. These are super important. The main point is that interactive design is about user expression. Even though most of the art, like fine art, is about self-expression, creativity in art often means being original, innovative, and unique. However, in interactive design, you reuse concepts and visual cues that everyone is already familiar with, so you don't reinvent the wheel. Unlike other forms of art, in interactive design, it's not about you, it's about users. Make sure your design is oriented around users, and your design should be based on your users, not about your creativity or originality. It is about them, it's not about us. The end.